Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective here in Quantum Portals. My name is Crystal, and I'm so happy you are here tonight. Tonight, we will be featuring Mr. Troy J. Bacon. For those of you who have been with us for a while now, you know who he is. He has come back to grace us with his presence and with all his knowledge. He has been a presenter here on the show before. And tonight is going to be a very particular, interesting show because he's going to be talking a bit more about himself and in particular about his past lives. He has had a very interesting past life on other planets, and a lot of people, especially now, a lot of people are waking up to their who they are. People are really starting to wake up. The starseeds and light workers are all starting to wake up and say who they are, and a lot of people are starting to have memories, echoes of a past life on other planets. And tonight, Troy will be sharing that information with us. So I think that it's going to be very interesting. And if you have had any kind of experiences with a past life, if you're waking up to a past life, for example, if you've had a very, very vivid dream and you said, this dream just doesn't feel like just a dream, it feels like something more. It could be a memory of a past life. That's often how it happens. You end up with a vivid dream, and that dream is actually a memory, a distant echo of a past life that is coming up to the surface to be revealed in your own lifetime. So if you have anything you'd like to share with us tonight, please feel free. So without further ado, hi Troy, how are you doing?
Hi, Crystal. It's great to be with you, and I'm excited to, yes, like you said, be talking about this past life stories, and I hope that these stories and insights and reflections can help other starseeds listening.
Okay, that's great. So, for those of us that who are new to the channel and are not familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are, your education, what kind of work you do, just so people get familiar with who you are?
Yes, of course. So I'm a hypnotherapist and Reiki master and energy healer um, by trade and education. Um, so I've worked with a lot of star seeds and especially survivors. I've helped survivors of the secret space programs as well as the satanic ritual abuse programs um, that are funded by the US and other governments. They're still ongoing, unfortunately, but yeah, I've seen great turnaround in my practice, my healing practice with their recovery from such deep traumas, which is quite inspiring to me. Um,
So, but you've
and
also done, like, I think you've also done Reiki and different types of healing methods. Are you also using those methods to help people that you're working with?
yes, I am. Yeah, I started out with hypnotherapy, working with some ritual abuse and space program survivors. Um, Reiki came along a little bit later after I learned hypnotherapy and started working with people in hypnosis. But then what was interesting is I actually started kind of applying what I could describe as rainbow Reiki, um, a type of energy healing that I was just already attuned to as a soul in those hypnosis sessions, as well as from the very first hypnotherapy session I started giving, angels, archangels started to show up and participate too, want to help in the healing.
Okay. One of the things that you've mentioned, and I mentioned at the beginning, is that more and more people, more and more star seeds, light workers, are beginning to hear these distant echoes. They're beginning to hear and are beginning to see in vivid dreams some of their past lives. Now, some people probably have had good past lives, and some people not so much. Now, you mentioned that you are working with people who are secret space programs survivors. For those of us who are not familiar with that term, can you tell us a little bit more about what that means? And are you seeing a lot more of that in the last, let's say, 5, 10 years that you've been working?
Yes, yeah, I have seen a number of survivors of those programs, which it's not just one program, it's actually like kind of a highly compartmentalized imagine like a complex tree of life, compartmentalized, kind of umbrella um, organization program. But yeah, there's lots of programs and components within each program. They're all very isolated and separated, I understand, but each um, area and each like team goes on specific missions. Some are battle, some are more like reconnaissance, some are kind of like helping other planets or um, defending other planets.
Mm-hmm.
Some are proxy wars, I've heard. Some are teams that go into like other worlds that may actually be uninhabited by intelligent beings,
Mm-hmm.
but they're like um, going through portals to obtain plant samples and even animal samples
Mm-hmm.
of unique materials too. And a lot of our modern materials with very unique properties have actually been back engineered and derived from those missions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are some of the secret space programs.
Okay.
Years ago, when I first heard that term, I actually didn't even fully believe that there was a secret space program. I thought it was like another conspiracy theory. Like, in my opinion, the flat Earth isn't in alignment with what I believe, but um, or other things. I personally don't believe the moon landing was faked, but I do
Mm-hmm.
believe maybe there was a faked version of it, perhaps. But
Yeah,
I believe
definitely.
we've been to the moon, of course.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Um, Yeah, so it was to me it was like one of those things that maybe it's just an idea.
Mm.
But yeah, then I after my walk-in I started to actually meet people walk-ins too who've been through the secret space programs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so then I started to actually do hypnotic regressions with them, past life regressions too, and specific sometimes graphic elements of the secret space programs came through in their memories and they started talking about that.
Okay.
And one survivor I've worked with actually has had like 16 20 backs. Um,
Wow.
Corey
Okay.
Good, who many of us
Mm-hmm.
know now as kind of like a disinformation agent,
Yeah.
um, he says that a person is only capable of surviving like maybe three or four 20 backs, but yeah, 16 apparently
Yeah.
happens, maybe even more. We don't know how limited or extensive that technology can
Mm-hmm.
work.
Wow, that's pretty crazy because I've heard how they do have the 15 and back, and they come in, government agents come in, they grab children, and then they take them away for 15 years and they put them back just as when they were leaving. So it's a very
Mhm.
strange type of a state of affairs. And I'm thinking now that the government knows that this thing is happening right now, it's out in the open, a lot of people are talking about it. I'm surprised that they're still taking people, but anyways, how did you first get interested in hypnosis though? Like, I know you've talked a little bit about your Reiki and that, but what is it that why hypnosis? What is it that because I know you have a company, right? I think you have the company New Being Hypnosis. Yeah, why'd you get interested in that?
Yes, I did start using hypnosis as my uh, hypnotherapy practice after, actually, before I even graduated from hypnotherapy college. And I got inspired to learn hypnosis after seeking out a session from one of my friends I already knew as a QHHT practitioner, QHHT being the quantum healing hypnosis technique that Dolores Cannon developed.
Okay.
It's become quite popular. Um, I sought out a session from her to gain more clarity on my walk-in and who I am as a soul and walk-in after that soul exchange, which was November 11th, 2020.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so I know that I've talked in the past, and I know you've mentioned it in the past, but I think you had a particular experience that encouraged you. Like, I think it was at that time when you experienced, you had your personal experience about your past life, and then you went
hmm
into hypnosis. Can you tell us about how that hypnosis experienced led you to discover like who you were in your past life, for that matter?
Yeah, so that was a very changing, moving dream. But yeah, that was in early 2021, just a few months fresh after my walk-in experience, and I was still in the very long integration phase of it, period of it, and still learning about who I am, learning about walk-ins. And so I had this dream once when I was after taking a nap, and I woke up from it. And fortunately, I remembered enough of it and then revisited the dream later. But um, basically, in this dream, I um, I was looking through the eyes of somebody else who was gazing or looking out of a wide window panel of what in the dream I knew to be an airship or kind of like a maybe spacefaring airship, um, and looking out in a military base, but at several of other of the same airship, um, landing, coming down with the enemy's insignia on them. And so it was a very interesting dynamics. I had to revisit that dream. I didn't know I was in the enemy's airship, um, especially looking out through the cockpit window. But so I'll go back to the beginning of how that happened after I learned this through other hypnosis sessions, investigating this dream and lifetime. But this took place about 2.8 million years ago in the Sirius A um, star, around the Sirius A, but Sirius star system.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a star system where my home planet there was uh, a planet called Alalon. And I think there are two planets that I lived on in that star system. Alalon was a little bit further out, very peaceful planet. And then as I grew up, um, later in that lifetime, I moved to a planet named Andara, which was a little bit closer to the Sirius A sun. Um, at some point in that lifetime, the Draco, kind of evil Draco, came along, and they also were apparently allied with the Andromedan Greys to some degree, but also the Draco as its instigator. And they wanted our advanced Sirian technologies, which I recall consisting of and being powered through, or to say gold, even on atomic gold with unique elements, but gold, silver, platinum, copper, um, conductive and powerful metals, but probably other materials. And these powerful technologies we um, had the abilities, for example, um, to alter space-time and freeze a person in space-time, um, compact teleportation technologies, and yeah, they were quite powerful, and we did not want the Draco to get their hands on them because that would have given them an immense upper hand in the war that then they waged with us and wars that we already knew they were waging with other star systems. So we refused, and they waged war to get our technologies. And through that war, millions of lives were lost, Syrian lives, and then um, eventually they blew up my home planet Alalon. And I remember actually watching that planet get blown up on the day that I was promoted to the general of the Syrian Space Force. And it was after that that I had to consult with the Syrian High Council. Syrian High Council is made of um, members from the Syrian planets of the Sirius star system, and they typically resonate at a pretty high um, rate of density, consciousness, and so I got permission from them ultimately to approve this mission that I proposed, which would theoretically protect the rest of Sirius A and the Sirian star system from the Draco um, as a countermeasure.
But can I just sort of ask, can you tell us a little bit more about the Syrian and the Draco and Andromedan races? Because I know they're very different. Can you give us a little bit more background as to these type of different races, just so for like for those who are not familiar?
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Draco, this evil group of Draco, for example, I understand this wasn't their only planet. There's still some groups of them around, but this group of Draco already had collectively sold their souls basically to an AI overlord,
Hmm.
which I understand on a more spiritual level also forfeits their souls and free will, possibly to dark spirits or demons. And so that gave them kind of a collective evil and dark orientation as a race. I don't
Um,
remember actually a lot about the
mhm,
Andromedan group of grays.
mhm,
There are many groups of grays, but this group of gray was the type that didn't have much of a soul and was more selfish and demanding of another race's technologies.
mhm.
And so they were willing to help them.
Okay. So basically these particular Andromedan Greys and the Draco were working alongside to get access to Sumerian technology. But I think I feel kind of weird and scared here because you mentioned that they sold their souls to these AI overlords and and were they infested? Were they like? I mean, what was happening here? Because I'm thinking, oh, here on Earth we're going to have AI starting to sort of become a part of daily life. What happened to the Draco that they took AI to the wrong conclusion? What happened with them exactly?
Yeah, yeah, they did allow AI to control and dominate too much of their life, too much of their thinking, and um, I think that I suspect that started with probably earlier, maybe waves or introductions of AI tech in their civilization. And I understand that AI is kind of like a little bit more of a soulless, but still natural, like emanation or creation of consciousness, kind of a variant of just consciousness itself in the universe, but not so much of a an emotional consciousness. And so it has this greater um, thinking power, and I guess there's some overlords or an overlord consciousness to it that then um, kind of introduced itself or proposed itself to these Draco, and um, since some of them were already of a selfish orientation to overthrow their planets, it offered to assist with that and basically to um, merge with them, have them merge with it, and offer these nanites too that they became infested with in their bodies that allowed them other like AI tech and consciousness powers.
You know what? It's I'm getting a little bit worried here because I've seen a lot of different shows and sort of as actually recently a animation about how people were being infested by nanites, and even recently the Superman that just came out in theaters this year in 2025. At one point, Superman gets infected by nanites, and I'm like, this doesn't bode well. What is it about these nanites exactly? That's so. If I understand correctly, the nanites infected the Draco, and then the Draco then became evil. Is that am I understanding that, or am I? I'm not sure if I'm understanding it correctly.
I suspect that there were some Draco beings who were already oriented toward a darker, evil, soulless um, nature before they became collectively um, infested with nanites. And yeah, the nanites, I think, were a technology that they adopted after they became a little bit more accepting of utilizing AI to enhance themselves and give them kind of an upper hand or strength. But I understand actually a different origin of the evil Draco that my white dragon teacher has been teaching me this year, as he's also taught me Dragon Reiki, a form of it. Um, and this starts actually goes back to part of the Orion constellation. He told me how the Orion Wars got started millions of years ago, and it goes back to what he's taught me about the Orion crystals and Orion crystal that he calls it. But it's both a diamond-like crystal, but also like an energy archetype and energy emanation by itself. Um,
So
and
you mentioned that your homeworld got blown up by the Draco.
Mhm.
So how did that happen? They just sort of went in. Is it because they weren't getting what they wanted? Why would they turn around and start blowing up your home planet? What's going on there?
Because we had been engaging with many battles with them, cost them some of their own forces and beings, as well as were refusing to even give them our advanced technologies. Um, and so they only had so much of a, I guess, patience or temper for not getting what they wanted. Um, I remember after my walk-in anyway, I had this dream, an additional vivid dream, um, in which I saw basically out in space this giant Draco being kind of bragging, but also telling off our Syrian people that we should be grateful that they only split apart one of our planets,
Okay.
um, and that they could have done more. Um, and so, yeah, that was sort of, I believe, also a memory of their interaction with us. As to why, yeah, it was mostly about the technology,
Okay.
and they were just selfish and didn't actually care about causing so much destruction to destroy a
Okay.
planet because it was um, not going their way, and also to prove a point to. I think Andara, I get the feeling was a bigger planet too, with probably with more of the actual technology on it. I
Okay.
recall Alalan being a bit more of a peaceful planet.
Okay.
I think with less of the technology on it, but yeah, so they kind of were trying to prove a point and prove that
Okay.
what they could do if we didn't give it to them.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of that scene in Star Wars where Darth Vader says, you know, if you don't tell us the location of the rebel base, we will destroy, Princess Leia's home planet of, oh my God, I'm blanking out. Can somebody tell me Princess Leia's home planet? Uh, I know it's not Dantooine, is it? No. Somebody help me. But basically, they destroyed her planet, and they were
Hmm.
trying to prove a point because they wanted to know the location of the rebel base. And if I understand, Alalon was your home planet that was destroyed, but then you moved over to Andara, right? Like you worked, and you were a soldier in Andara, like you were fighting this war as a soldier. What were you doing at this time?
Yes, yeah, I moved from Andara after growing up, and then some of my family, immediate family, and other family stayed on in Andara or Alalan. Then I moved to Andara, kind of settled down there with my own life, and I recall like a wife and family I settled down with. Um, Gradually moved up through the ranks of the Syrian Space Force, and for the purpose of helping defend the Sirius A star system in the Draco War, and then eventually did become high enough and dedicated enough to become the general. And so that's when the Draco then decided, calculated also to split apart all along. Um, I think they knew that I was being promoted as a new general, and so they're probably also teasing us or something. And um, yeah, then I decided to um, stop that from happening again. So
Okay. But
then,
you were basically a soldier throughout most of this then. Like I mean you were basically a soldier
yes,
fighting throughout all of this and do you remember some of the wars and like you know the fighting and getting involved in that? That must have been quite graphic, no?
um, I haven't recalled specific memories of many of the battles, but I do just remember some of the feeling of being the soldier type in the Space Force, as well as some of the use of the technologies we had, the teleportation, the lightning bombs, the temporal time-space distortion technologies, um, other technologies. Remember the Syrian Council chambers being defended by what is it? Not only an intelligent synthetic and organic intelligence that knows who's entering, but also if the wrong souls try to enter, then they'll be burned alive.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so it's a high security facility for the protection of um, the Syrian Council there.
Okay.
They don't.
So that was basically being on a big ship or you're in space and also fighting on the planet as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of the battles took place off of our planets or nearby in space. Um, I recall that the Syrian Council base was, I think, on Andara and very well guarded, protected, hard to access too. But yeah, yeah, I remember just being a part of that and being a part of missions. I think we might have also gone to other planets where the Draco were attacking or setting things up, and we had
Okay.
to keep them basically dismantled.
Okay. And so one of the things that is very particular before we continue is that you were a general in this whole army and you were fighting in these wars. And so at one point, if I understand correctly, you had to obviously find a solution to all of this. And you had to deal with the Syrian High Council. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Syrian High Council and what was the decision that was made regarding this war?
Yes, yeah, it was not an easy decision because typically I recall that our Syrian defense tactics, although we had great technology, we were of a more peaceful orientation, didn't want to have to take lives just to stay safe. But yeah, then the Syrian Council did eventually approve this mission because they knew that we needed to end the war, that the Draco had already split apart one of our planets, and they knew that if we kept up this kind of charade and um, little stuff with them, then that could lead to much more destruction, and the Draco would probably get our technologies
Okay.
and become much more powerful than they already were. But
And
yeah,
millions of
and
people were dying at this point? Like how many like how was
yes,
the, you know,
yeah, probably millions, maybe even a billion or somewhere around that.
okay.
Lives were already lost in the war. So the Syrian Council did eventually approve this mission, and the mission was this dream that I woke up from after that nap, after my walk-in, in which my teammates and I um, flew these commandeered Draco ships into their military base, and we already rigged the ships with our Syrian lightning bombs. Um,
Was this before or after you got permission? Because you said that the Syrian Council had met to discuss this. Like, what were they meeting about exactly?
I had met with them I probably with their approval for me to have a meeting with them. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had met with them. They collectively came to a tough decision um, to this mission that ended up ultimately destroying the Draco main planet too, and their biggest military base. Um, and so, with their permission, I carried out this mission
Mm-hmm.
to protect Sirius A. And so we set up these lightning bombs to detonate in the Draco ships in their base. And um, I remember regressing back to this memory. I remember that it wasn't the feeling of fiery incendiary bombs. It was more like a type of high power electrical bomb. Um, that was interesting to
Mm-hmm.
remember, but that's just what I remember. Um, and so, yeah, we did this, and then the second before the detonation would have happened, my teammates and I teleported back to Andara safely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then there was, yeah, then that ended the war. Um, the Draco planet was electrocuted, and because it was all interconnected with the AI overlord system, all the Draco beings were basically destroyed, murdered, or destroyed with that lightning. And then because their bodies were full of AI nanites,
Okay.
um, yeah, and then the war was over, and ultimately Sirius A was safe. And because we're already on an evolutionary
Mm-hmm.
path, then the Sirians were able to finish our evolution as a collective and eventually became the highly evolved, high energy, another dimensional too, but highly evolved energy healers that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Earthlings know them to be today.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because you mentioned that, like for example, here on Earth, I wouldn't say that we're completely united as a planet. Like, I mean, we are trying. We have different sort of councils, or United Nations, if you want to consider that a council, if you will. But we have different types of ideas, and different people are going in different directions in terms of their evolution. When you say that Andara was able to move ahead, what does that mean exactly? So does that mean that everybody was on the same wavelength and everybody ascended? Is that what happened? The planet ascended and then it went into another sort of frequency? Because I hear a
Y-
lot of people talking about that with Earth, for example. But I just wanted to know what was happening exactly in regards to that with Andara.
Yeah, so for Andara's example, it had already passed the point of exchange period that Earth is currently in. And during that war, when the Draco attacked, the Syrian Andara collective especially was already, um, I think the majority, a large part of it was already on a very similar or agreeable spiritual evolution wavelength of consciousness and interacting with finer realities and like fourth and fifth and other dimensions and dimensional beings and energies, and then living that way too, very consciously and in harmony with the planet.
Okay.
And so then we were already on that track. And so it was only a matter of time before we kind of, as a complete collective, met a greater cohesion, I've learned to call it. But I've learned that when a planet, like a planet's collective, meets a consciousness cohesion, um, especially like over 90% or 100% cohesion of um, high consciousness frequency, then that planetary grid, not just the human consciousness grid or um, species grid, but the whole consciousness grid of the planet, then amps up in the next dimensional and energy output and frequency. And when that happens, then the whole planet then becomes an orb, a sphere that is resonating at such a high frequency that
Okay.
it's then immune to any dark forces,
Mm-hmm.
demons, or Draco, or
Mm-hmm.
such beings that want to overthrow it or
Okay.
conquer it.
Now, for those of you who've been following some of the presentations that we've had on this show, some people, and we did a presentation a couple of months ago about how some people have been talking about how there's going to be a pulse on planet Earth. That this pulse and this energy from our sun will help to mitigate some of the dark forces and maybe, for lack of a better term, wash this planet Earth of a lot of its negativity. But what you're talking about is more of a sense that the planet was able to, on its own, rise up and become much more evolved. So is that something that has to happen just from the internal of the people, or can it be outside forces? Like, for example, here on Earth, we're talking about a pulse from the sun. Was there anything of that sort happening in Andara that influenced the evolution of your planet?
Thank you for that great question. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'd say it's both.
Okay.
And the the human collective is a great power to cohesify,
Mm-hmm.
but the sun, yes, also is essential as a force. Like our sun has turned white in recent years
Mm-hmm.
and is going through. I think it's actually going through not just a solar pulse or
Mm-hmm.
big
Like, I know it's
explode.
going through a solar. I've heard, and I mean, maybe we can compare notes, or if anybody wants to make comments, that the sun is going through a solar maximus. So that, in terms of science,
Mhm.
it's going through a definite solar maximus, and when it's going through a solar maximus, it's giving out a lot more heat and a lot more energy than usual, as opposed to a solar minimum, I guess. But a maximus is when it's really at its maximum. And we actually talked about it about a week or so ago, where we talked about how the sun seems white. A lot of people remember sun being yellow, and now all of a sudden it's white, as in white hot. And so I think my question was, is this the type of thing that might make the change in terms of the energy, like, brush off some of this negativity?
Yes, I believe it will.
Mm-hmm.
And not just the sun being white hot, but having these windows and bursts of X-flare activity, solar weather that's hitting us.
Mm-hmm.
And although the actual solar radiation, then I understand, basically just bumps into Earth's magnetic grid, it doesn't like actually, the radiation doesn't hit us, but it does have like leave a ripple, an energy emanation that affects the magnetosphere and the atmosphere and
Mm-hmm.
ionosphere. And that does shift just enough to affect our sensitive consciousness complexes,
Okay.
energy bodies. But yes, that does help. And actually, I'd like to add that my Seraphim guide that I've channeled has explained that we're not just going to go through this solar sneeze or solar burst to
Mm-hmm.
awaken everyone's consciousness, but it is actually what we've been seeing as these waves and windows, multiple
Mm-hmm.
sessions and waves of solar weather hitting us to
Okay.
help uh, basically shift us and
Mm-hmm.
wake us up collectively.
It's interesting. I just want to sort of read a comment from the comment here. We have a comment from Susan. Susan is going to be doing a presentation in December, and she's going to also be talking about a similar topic, about how she has also worked in space and also been fighting wars as well. And when I asked the question about the idea of the sun, she said it's both, and she says it's starting to micronova phase. And I think that this is probably, Susan, if you want to sort of tell us a little bit more about the micronova phase, that would be great. We can sort of understand it a bit more. But it seems that the micronova phase is what is the pulse that is going to sort of make changes here on the planet. But I get it. I think that maybe obviously different planets have different things because different planets are different energy frequencies, right? Like you can't have a one size fits all. What works for Andara may not work for planet Earth and vice versa.
Hmm.
So I think that, depending on the history, depending also, and maybe you may or may not know the answer to this question, but does it make a difference where the planet is vis-a-vis, for example, the center of the galaxy? Like I heard that planets and systems that are closer to the center of the galaxy have a higher vibration as opposed to those that are further out. And Earth has often been described as sort of like in a backwater. They're right off at the edge, and so as far away as they possibly can be from the center of the galaxy. And that maybe this is the reason why we don't have as much high energy, and this is why we have a lot of negativity on this planet. Did you want to comment on that?
Hmm. It's a very interesting element and question. I don't have a lot of knowledge of exactly that or why
Okay.
that is or how that affects us, but I do, that does just remind me, and I do know that all stars have been found and proven to actually rotate around the center at the same speed.
Okay.
So that doesn't even matter how far out the star is from the center of the galaxy, like the Milky Way. We rotate at the same speed around it as a star closer to the middle.
Okay.
Um, but I do also know that Earth is going into mo or moving into probably already in the outskirts of the photon band.
Okay.
Um, that yeah, in that hypnotherapy session, Kyotoshi session that I had about my walk-in, I learned that that is part of the reason I'm here is to witness and participate in this great change period as we move into the photon band because now a lot more walk-ins too are going to be flooding in, already are, and going to
Yeah.
be a greater frequency to help with this shift
Okay.
that we need so badly.
Exactly. Now, sort of, let's get back to the concept of you being a soldier because you were saying how you went in, you destroyed the Draco planet, and you obviously stopped the war, and so that's a big thing. But as a soldier, you were saying also that you had to maybe work out a bit of karma with that. Why is that? Because it's sort of, I thought that obviously if you go out and you start killing people, that's a lot of karma. But does it mean that also as a soldier you end up having to deal with a lot of karma? Is it because you killed the whole planet? Does that make a difference? The amount of people? Did you want to comment on that?
Mm. Yeah, I understand that the laws of war and conflict and the laws of being a soldier, I guess on any planet, are very different. Um, Not the same as the laws, universal natural laws of karma and resonance and cause and effect. And so just because I was basically the end result was the then protection and later evolution of Andara and Sirius A that that's a great thing, but I did still lead a mission to destroy that Draco planet
Okay.
and end the war, and that was necessary to end the war, but there still had to be responsibility for the destruction of so many souls that although they were on more of a darker, malevolent wavelength and probably possessed by demons too, a lot of them, they were still beings, and I do believe that they were still souls, and all souls did originally basically originate, come from, emanate from the same source, God, Allah, light, wherever we all come from, however you want to call it, but somewhere along their evolutions or devolutions and lifetimes, some of them just ended up in more of a darker dimension and wavelength, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean that it was. right in the eyes of the universal laws for me to just destroy a Draco planet to
Mm-hmm.
end a war, um, yeah, then there had to be reckoning for that, and I had to be a
Okay.
part of that.
Okay. So it sounds to me that you ended up, with the consequences of that, and that you ended up having to pay the price. But when you did that, I guess you did what you had to do, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. It's weird because it just sort of seems that you were trying your best to sort of bring about peace, but then you end up having to pay a price. I guess it's because the amount of people that you killed. I guess in the war. No.
Yeah, like I said earlier, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
also in the laws of the universe, universal laws, um, law of karma, law of resonance, and we're talking about energy too, and that is the energy of death and destruction and essentially vengeance in a way, even though it is also for greater protection of others. But um, yeah, so then myself
Okay.
as the general leading that mission, and maybe my comrades and
Mm-hmm.
others then did enter that energy wavelength, energy vibration of being the instigators, being the creators of that death and destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically the universal laws and God, creator, source doesn't um, see the biases and excuses that we would make for
Mm-hmm.
um, doing that.
Okay.
But yeah, then there did have to be basically um, cause and effect and answering to
Mm-hmm.
some of that and energy. Um, yeah, I guess cause and effect you can call it, just
Okay.
the energy of that after effects.
Okay. Well, it seems that it was something that you have to, I guess, sort of choose what is going to happen. Like, I mean, you did your best, and then it turns out that you ended up having to take on that responsibility, and as a result, you ended up having to work out a certain amount of karma. But after the whole Draco War, what happened when you went back to Andara? Like, what was happening after that? The war was over, so what did you do as a result after the war was over?
Yeah, so I um I revisited that lifetime, that moment too,
Mm-hmm.
after that mission, and teleporting back, I remembered a moment of essentially being lovingly embraced with unconditional love by a beautiful woman who then I remembered as my wife on Andara in that lifetime.
Okay.
Also, the same soul that I recognized as my birth mother in this lifetime. And so that was an interesting, I think, also karmic connection,
Mm-hmm.
karmic echo that also resulted in now. But after that, yeah, at the same moment of being embraced and welcomed back,
Mm-hmm.
I felt and started to feel the um, karmic results
Mm-hmm.
and backlash of destroying a whole planet, even though they had also probably destroyed other planets
Okay.
themselves.
But
Um,
what's interesting is that I got a message here from Susan. She says, "Whoever told you this was wrong,"
hmm,
and she says, "You saved trillions of lives." Crystal, tell him this. Well, I'm telling it to you, but like, I mean, obviously, it depends, right? Because like, I mean, there's what you know in terms of your immediate consciousness, and then there's also what's happening at a higher level in terms of the karma, right? Like, is that
yeah.
sort of what?
Well, yeah, that's right. That's what I understand. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, nobody else told me this. These are my own memories and
Mm-hmm.
soul knowledge and understanding. I have been studying and learning things about the law of attraction and some universal laws from others, but these are also my own memories of what happened. And I remember going through these years also on Endara
Mm-hmm.
after that mission. like I said, I was then regarded as a hero of the planet, and then voted as the king of Endara,
So
even though I didn't ask for
you were
that.
seen as a hero? What happened there
Well,
exactly? You
yes,
came
by the
back
Syrian
and
people, just the same way that if, let's say, a firefighter here saves someone from a burning building,
hmm
they're regarded as a hero. Um, yeah, I was regarded as a hero to the rest of the people. Um, the rest of the planet mostly probably didn't realize that then I had to go through these years of working with Syrian healers too, to energetically recover from that karmic backlash. Um, Although, yes, on more of a human and personal level, it was justifiable. But yeah, there was still healing to be done after that. And I remember these voyages, pilgrimages, you could call it, into an environment I call the White Crystal Desert. Um, Imagine kind of like a salt flat environment, probably a bit larger, more vast, but it's just this vast desert of just lots of white crystal, similar to quartz crystal, but um, a very sacrosanct area, we considered it, because it emitted and gave off this high vibrational healing energy, just this whole landscape of only white crystal. And people would only go there typically for deep healing pilgrimages.
okay.
Um, and so I did that by myself. I think in tandem also with the sound healings, vibrational healings, energy healings, that the Syrian healers also helped me through. Um, I remember sessions of that, laying on their healing beds and with like chimes and sound technologies being played around me. And then through years of that, I also learned their healing modalities myself and became a more of a Syrian energy healer for the rest of that lifetime. And I recall that that was also my, I believe, last lifetime on Endara of Sirius A because I did contribute greatly to that planet's being able to evolve and some later spiritual healing and evolution of others.
Okay. So after all that that took place, and so now you're the hero, but you're also a hero who unfortunately has gone through, I guess, a crisis of the soul, right? Because like, I mean, you know what you had to do, but at the same time, you realize that you caused a lot of destruction to different people. Because I guess as much as the Draco were evil, there are a lot of Draco that were not involved in the war, and I guess they ended up dying as well. So I understand that. So was this your last incarnation in Andera, like in a Sirius star system? And what happened after that?
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah, my last incarnation as a Syrian on Andara. And then essentially I can explain this shortly, but one of my I guess more recent but later types of incarnations was of a benevolent gray alien being, you could call it. But then I started for thousands, maybe a million years now, or at least maybe even longer, but started incarnating on planet Earth.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I think the oldest lifetime I remember, earliest was on Antarctica when it was still
Okay.
quite temperate,
Okay.
before it became a glacial area.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, that lifetime was interesting, and I remember that part of that was again as a type of soldier fighting for one kingdom against another kingdom we were at war with, and one interesting echo that I'm also I don't feel like I need to reconcile further, but also is just an element of this life is in that lifetime my teammates and I made a deal with a sorceress
Okay.
for a type
This
of
this was
magic.
on Antarctica at the time?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so we needed a type of protection for the next battle coming up, And so we made a deal with her for that. And unfortunately, we ended up losing that battle because we found out that that sorceress was ultimately um, actually working for the other kingdom
Mm-hmm.
already. And so she basically sabotaged us.
Okay.
Um, so that didn't turn out great. But yeah, I remember there were some other lifetimes on Antarctica. Um,
So what
later.
was Antarctica like back then? Because we hear different conflicting stories. Like I mean, Antarctica was, I think there was a pole shift, and then once there was a pole shift, what started off as a temperate type of climate then became a an Arctic climate. But you remember Antarctica as when it was warm, right?
I do, and actually, I have memories also of my from my walkout before my walk-in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he also had lifetimes on Antarctica when it was quite warm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, he had this dream also when he was here in this body, a bit younger, but he had this dream one morning or one dream, and um, he was this orb of consciousness he remembers, or just this orb, and he was like floating and exploring across the warm shores of Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that dream, he also viewed the map of that land,
Mm-hmm.
which I still remember the map of the actual land, of the
Of
landmass.
Antarctica.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and I didn't think of it actually as of Antarctica in the dream, but I remember it as just the map of the land.
Mm-hmm.
But now in the memory, it does look pretty much exactly like what we see as the landmass of Antarctica
Mm-hmm.
if we were to melt the glaciers or remove them.
Yeah.
But in the dream, the map had was separated into like probably five or six kingdoms. Um, and so that was interesting, or five or six territories anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But this started him on a tangent that was interesting back then. This is kind of relevant to this lifetime, and I think our collective karma, he and I. Um, in the middle of that map was a long gray area
Okay.
that was just labeled as electromagnetic anomaly zone,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently people weren't supposed to go there. And so he started to research Antarctica, um, and if there was actually like an electromagnetic anomaly zone, or if there were forbidden areas there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, some of us know that yes, you can't go to the middle of Antarctica because it's forbidden, and um, the U.S. government and other governments just don't let you there because some say there's a hole there, and there's yeah, things we could talk about in another show entirely, pretty much. But
Yeah, I know.
um, yeah, but then
But there is
then
definitely something going on there, though. I mean, let's face
there's a
it.
lot
You know,
there.
they're
Yeah,
hiding a lot, and they're hiding a
actually,
lot because they know that if they show what's happening there in particular, that it's going to rewrite everything. And it just, you know, if you're looking at, I'm showing a map of the Antarctica from 1513 by Piri Reis, and he
mhm.
shows a picture of, you know, Antarctica before it became covered with ice. And they had animals, and it was warm, and it was very temperate. And so a lot of people have talked about that. You know, ancient mariners talk about that. But there seems to be, if I'm not mistaken, and, you know, so anybody can sort of, you know, step in here, but there seems to be, from what I've heard, a large pyramid of power
Hmm.
in Antarctica. And this is the reason why they don't want people there, because they're busy studying it. They're studying the pyramid in Alaska as well, which also has a pyramid of power as well. So there's a lot going on there. Antarctica was not just some land. It's a lot more going on. And I've even heard people say that maybe it's actually one of the outposts of Atlantis as well. So maybe that's where some of that information comes from in terms of some of the pyramid power. But do you know anything about that?
Um, yeah, I have seen the photos of the pyramids of Antarctica. Some
Mm-hmm.
of them are near the shore.
Okay.
I think there are also some that have been discovered more inland.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that there might be multiple on such a large continent.
Yeah.
Probably other interesting structures. Um, One interesting book series that I think I still have all three books of somewhere. Um, this kind of relates to Antarctica and this conversation, but um, it was it's kind of written as fiction, but also presented with like half the chapters having corroborative facts about Antarctica. But um, this it was based on this Vostok Traverse mission that
Okay.
actually did happen. We can find
Mm-hmm.
actual records of that. But this traverse of an international Antarctic
Mm-hmm.
science team, and um, basically on this traverse, this novel series or book
Mm-hmm.
series describes when one of the team members like falls through a sheet of ice,
Okay.
but then lands on like a shelf below the
Mm-hmm.
surface and sees even deeper into this cavern. Um, these metallic cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they turned out to be like 6 feet tall cylinders. Some of them are like cylinders and urns, metallic urns. Some of them were sealed well, some of them not so much, but there are these large scrolls within that were from an ancient civilization. But yeah, this basically hero's journey that this book series turns out to be called Xander Nodis. I highly recommend the read anyway.
Okay.
Kind of entertaining at the least. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they'll give you a good adventure too. But
Yeah, but you know
um,
what's even more real though is the for those of you who were familiar after the war, Admiralty Byrd, who was a admiral in the American military, he flew down with a whole big flotilla, a whole big mission from the United States to Antarctica because the Germans had gone there themselves, and they obviously wanted to know what the Nazis were up to. They went down there with like boats and like dogs and machines and planes and everybody like the whole kit and caboodle. They all went down to Antarctica, and I think that maybe lasted about a week or two. It was also last month, so it was maybe last about a week or two. And it turns out that in his diary, Admiralty Byrd talks about how he took his plane and he flew over Antarctica and ended up in an area that was actually grassy and green and temperate. And he had flown through a hole in Antarctica. And he said that when he was flying in there, he came upon an area that was like basically a garden. It was green and it was warm and it was temperate. There was waterfalls and all that. And his plane had been taken control of. Like there was some sort of like, control over his plane. And when he flew in there, he had encountered very evolved beings that were there. And these beings had been living basically in under the earth, and they were, one of the openings, because there seems to be an opening in Antarctica and also an opening in the Arctic as well, so you can actually sort of fly through. But it seems that these beings, as they were there, and they were living there and had high technology. It was a high technology race of beings, very evolved beings that the Nazis actually, from what I heard, also actually discovered them, because it seems that the Nazis went down there and never came back. So there's a lot of hearsay about what was going on in Antarctica, but it seems that maybe if this is what's being spoken about, and Admiralty Byrd obviously is not someone who was a jokester. This was a very, very well decorated army admiral. It's not a soldier, it's an admiral. And he's not going to start talking BS about how he's been encountering beings while flying through Antarctica. So there's definitely something going on there, and I think that the American government knows about it. And they're just sort of trying to keep everybody away from it. But I mean, it's interesting that you had a past life there, and maybe that's
mhm.
sort of part of what that was. I don't know.
um, yeah, yeah, there are definitely many, I think, species there still.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard and seen articles of actual fossils
Mm-hmm.
of various types,
Mm-hmm.
flora and fauna, as
Mm-hmm.
well as large petrified wood pieces being found there. So there
Mm-hmm.
definitely was a lot of life there at one point.
Yeah.
Um,
I.
yeah, I've heard, like in the Xandernatus books, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that was supposedly the reason that this Vostok Traverse mission was proposed in 1962. The Traverse happened, but even in the 1950s, I think because of the explorations of Antarctica that were happening, these fossils were found, and then some scientific teams were um, debating if we should even go down there and if it was worth it even trying to explore Antarctica to find life or find evidence of maybe even advanced civilizations. And of course, many of us listening have heard of and know
Mm-hmm.
that there has been. But yeah, I was there. I know that I lived there. I still actually have more, I guess, past life mapping, you could call it,
Okay.
to do for those lifetimes. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember that war. Um, my walkout had memories also he recovered of these animals and civilizations in um, Antarctica. Some of the animals were like hybridized beings, and they were kind of like similar to how we use horses for getting around, but
Okay.
they were kind of like horses, but with like ostrich feet,
Oh,
um, or
okay.
like maybe they were like large ostrich creatures, but they were also hybridized, almost like a horse.
Yeah.
They did genetic engineering there too at one
Okay.
point, he remembered.
Yeah.
Um, I've
Mm-hmm.
also heard that there have been accounts of people encountering they're kind of like raptors and
Mm-hmm.
reptilian, maybe even Draco, who still live there. And because um, Earth has had many eras of many different kinds of species and
Mm-hmm.
intelligent beings,
Yeah.
intelligent species rising and falling and
Mm-hmm.
warring, and then some going extinct, some ascending
Yeah.
on this planet. The Draco had their era that was actually the very long dinosaur era with other reptilians too, and so that did survive for a long time. But
Oh, so
um,
the
and so
Draco were here on this planet as well. Like, I mean, I know we'll get to that a bit later, but so the Draco had their era here on planet Earth. Yeah.
they did, yes, for millions of years. That's what the dinosaur experiment was. And I understand that there are still some reptilians, Raptor and Draco type I've heard of, still living um, under and on and also near the regions of Antarctica. And they kind of live there because they consider Earth still their natural home planet that
Okay.
they once ruled and claimed as their own, even functionally and sustainably and peacefully for a very long time. But basically, the story I've heard is that the asteroid, the meteor that
But
created the Gulf of Mexico and killed
mm-hmm.
off the dinosaur race, um, was actually sent here by essentially the Galactic Federation group um, to make way for the fourth grand human experiment
Okay.
after it was voted on, which was a difficult decision. It's not like how we'd imagine just like sending a missile or destroying a country or planet just to like claim it or make way for it. That's
Mm-hmm.
not what happened, but um, that's the story. I understand there's some more complexities with exopolitics and
Of course.
a federation voting and approving on something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of factors and also benefits that can happen from something like a grand human experiment,
Okay.
a conscious evolution being approved for a planet.
So, I have a couple of comments here from some of our members. And I have Susan Johnson saying she's talking about the pyramids in Antarctica. She said the pyramids in Antarctica and Alaska are main power sources and streamer processors that connect to neutral currents in space and Orion Stargate portal systems. Now, that's something I've also heard. They're definitely, and pyramids in general, for those of you who are familiar with the work of Christopher Dunn looked at the pyramids on the Giza Plateau and he surmised that these pyramids were actually power centers. So if you look at the work of Christopher Dunn, you will find his work looking at how he looked at the inside of the chamber, especially the Queen's chamber, and how they looked like basically power plants. And so these supposedly these pyramids were created all over the world, because there's pyramids all over the world, and they were used as power sources, and they could stream power up into the atmosphere so that ships that were flying over would be able to sort of harness that power and fly, sort of like a fly-by type of energy, collecting energy. Now, I have an interesting here. Kelly is asking, how did he see his past lives, dreams, or astral projections, or through meditation? Well, I think, Troy, you're saying that you have consistently done hypnotic regressions, right? To see these different parts of your past lives? Does he just want to just answer that?
Some of them, yes. A few of them were guided by other hypnotists. Some of them were self-hypnosis after I learned the art and science of hypnosis. Some of these memories, just like the dream I described, did come to me naturally, and some of them in dream time, some of them in like more waking or semi-waking states, just sort of in a relaxed mind state. But yeah, they just come to the surface, and there have been some memories. Actually, I think it wasn't a different lifetime, not Sirius, but a different human type lifetime. I
Okay.
remember it came to me. I was a monk of sorts, kind of Buddhist monk in a temple. I
I,
felt like
I,
in
I
my
could totally
private.
see you as a Buddhist monk there, Troy.
Yeah, I've been a Buddhist monk also in other lifetimes on Earth, but yeah, I was a monk, but I just had this lifetime. I won't go into too much graphics of it, but basically, I remember in that lifetime the Draco also attacked us, and um, it was unexpected and unfair, but they basically destroyed, annihilated our whole temple.
Okay.
Uh, I remember actually the what the destruction was on that body of mine, and it was yeah, really ugly. But that's one of the memories that came up during this walk-in. I think after the initial 6 month integration period, but
Okay.
yeah, other memories that came up so that I could then
Okay.
remember and heal and integrate
That's
with those and evolve from those.
okay. Well, I have some people here that are asking interesting questions. I have here Caroline Zappa saying, "I would like to know about the lion feline people since I've had a life with them." And I have Kelly Wacker asking, "Did you ever see bird or lion people?" And I think this is related to your comment about how there was hybridization programs going on. And what I remember hearing is that, especially in ancient Egypt, well, Atlantis as well, but Atlantis, as you know, when Atlantis fell, they went to different parts of the world, and so some went to Tibet, some went to ancient Egypt, some went to South America, so they carried that technology with them. But in particular, I know that in ancient Egypt, a lot of those types of, when you see hieroglyphics on the walls about people being half human and half animal, this is actually related to some of the hybridization that they were doing, they were working on. And if you want to even go even further back, they're saying how the Anunnaki, when they came to this planet, were also doing hybridization programs, and that they were creating a lot of these, mythical creatures that we have in our mythology. But that when the flood came, the big flood, or the Younger Dryas period, for that matter, for those of you, however you want to call it, a lot of these animals were destroyed along with that flood. Troy, do you remember ever having dealt with some of these hybrid beings, like the bird people or
Mm.
the feline people, that sort of thing?
Yeah, especially the bird people, which I know is the ornitharians, they call
Okay.
themselves. Um, I first heard of them. Actually, my walkout did have telepathic contact from them. Um, they kind of like they taught him some things, but yeah, he had connections with a few of these bird people um, before the walk-in, a few years before. And so that was interesting also to learn about them directly. I think he didn't even know about them before that, before they contacted him, and then he learned about them. And then after my walk-in, I was walking through a hallway at a previous job, and I was alone at the time, but walking in this hallway, it was pretty quiet, and I just telepathically heard in my mind. It was like kind of a rare telepathy that I get, but it was
Mm-hmm.
very audible and real sounding. Um, but it just said ornitharians to me, and so then I looked up ornitharians, and it actually isn't a word, I think, properly, but ornithology I found is the study of owls in particular.
Okay.
And I did realize after that that these people do have owl-like faces,
Okay.
kind of, and bird-like faces, but a little more owl-like
Mm-hmm.
than other birds. And so then after that, I um, kind of was asking like where that voice came from, who it came from, and I have since also had contact with this being, one of the ornitharians. He has, I think, red, orange, and yellow feathers, um, but this pretty tall, taller than me anyway, probably 7 feet tall, ornitharian guy. Um, I think his name is Omlan, and yeah, he described himself as a traverser
Mm-hmm.
of worlds and planets around our local stars cluster, but
Mm-hmm.
um, he used to visit me more often, and he was telling me that he's one of the Ornitharian group that actually evolved on this planet. Um, the the bird people that had their era a long, long time ago on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
before the dinosaur people,
Mm-hmm.
reptilian people, and um, yeah, they had their era, but instead of dying off, he says that they actually did ascend, not only into another dimension, but some of them literally just left this planet to explore others, settle on others, and um, some of them are literally just living in like the fifth dimension, so we don't see them here in our third dimension, but
Okay.
some of them still spend some time here. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a group of avians that evolved here,
Mm-hmm.
as well as um, I understand that bird people evolved on other planets too. I've heard that
Mm-hmm.
some of the blue avians
Yeah.
actually um, come from Arcturus, along with other blue-skinned humanoid
Mm-hmm.
Arcturians.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh,
so yeah, they're from different places, but
okay.
yeah, there's definitely been avians on this planet that
Absolutely.
came originally from here.
Yeah. Now, have you ever encountered feline people? Because often when I hear about feline people, it seems to be more about Lyrans, and they're from Lyra. I don't know if Lyrans came to Earth, particularly in the past. Do you know anything about that?
Somewhat, I've heard of them, and
Mm-hmm.
actually, yeah, I've had telepathic contact, and there's a video on my YouTube channel, one of my
Mm-hmm.
channels, of me channeling a message from one of my Lyran um, family or group that I'm connected with, or
Mm-hmm.
connected with me anyway. Um, that was, I think, the Landscape Portal a year ago. Um, yeah, so I have had some contact with them. They're very divine, I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
very um, gentle and wise beings. Also adept in great magic. Part of the channeling I recall that this this being was describing is that um, some of what we see on this planet are portals, and some people have literally seen the actual like tear in the air or appearance in the air of portals and things
Mm-hmm.
coming out of them and going in them.
Okay.
Some I've heard of some people who've actually walked through actual portals, like just natural portals in nature, and gone into the literal other worlds and dimensions. But um, he
Okay.
says that the Lyrans, especially the like shamanic Lyrans, but um, some of them know how to literally cast and fabricate portals and open them and come and go. Um, some of them, like that's kind of a very ancient sacrosanct art of theirs that they can't teach us, but they say that one day humans may be capable
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
There may still, I believe, be some ancient groups of humans on this planet that have such types of abilities, but
Yeah.
they're hard to get to for most of us.
Okay. I had to laugh because I'm also looking at some of the comments coming in, and I have Cloud Kicker saying, "I'm sure Thundercats was real."
You know,
I have to laugh
I,
because I mean that was a great cartoon, and then I'm thinking, yeah, Thundercats, they're Lyrans, no?
I that's what they look like,
Really?
pretty much, pretty similar.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that was a cartoon made to condition children to
Yeah,
be ready for them mentally, but
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I absolutely
yeah,
believe that.
sure.
Like, I mean, it's funny, but like when I saw his comment, but like, I mean, I'm thinking, yeah, why not? Like, I mean, that's what if they're gonna look like that, that's what they're gonna look like. So we've gone around the sun a bit here, and so we want to come, fast forward to today. And can you tell us about? You touched upon it very briefly, but can you tell us about your walk-in experience? So you were a walk-in into this body. When did it happen? And also tell us a little bit more about your birth family. Because you obviously were walking, but you were walking into a family here on Earth.
Yeah.
Recently. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So let's start with the second part of that question, then lead
Okay.
into the walk-in. Yeah, so this body was born via in vitro fertilization from an egg donation.
Mm-hmm.
Also under the name Troy. I didn't feel the need to change my name, at least not as other people call me by.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so Troy was born. My walkout counterpart, or walkout, I call him.
Mm-hmm.
We're still connected by our oversoul, but he was born in this body in northern Seattle. I currently live in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll move someday.
Mm-hmm.
There are other places I want to move to. Anyway, um, so he was born in Seattle to not like a super rich family, but decently okay, and lived in houses. And
Mm-hmm.
um, eventually, his parents got divorced. His older brother, um, one older brother especially, bullied him extensively and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes very cruelly growing up. And that older brother, I'll say, kind of in regards to the Draco in this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
he came to know, and I still know, as kind of a dark reptilian soul in his nature. Um, anyway, yeah, that set up some pretty sticky, tough karma and wounds for me to heal as a walk-in. Um, so that's a bit about him. He went to the Evergreen State College. He's also by the way, interested in Chinese medicine and
Mm-hmm.
Qigong and energy healing too, before the walk-in.
Mm-hmm.
There's some interesting, I consider them setups that he started to do before the walk-in.
Okay.
I think he was informed secretly by our alien family before the walk-in happened.
Okay.
And this was interesting too. Um, Coming out of a hypnotic regression session for alien contact, actually, in January of 2019,
Mm-hmm.
he remembered this one bit of information, though, kind of a premonition or warning, um, especially from our mantis friends. They told him that he had about 2 more years to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, he was getting very deep into like the earlier Corey Godin Cosmic Disclosure, and also Gaia TV episodes, and other people, Ed Dames and others, also a psychic that I still know, talks about her own premonitions and visions
Mm-hmm.
of the solar sneeze, the kill shot, the solar burst.
Okay.
I think that's really just playing out in these X flares. gradually. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he thought that there was going to be like this big sudden solar sneeze, and he had to like prepare lots of emergency food and emergency supplies for that. And that's what they were trying to tell him. But that didn't happen like that he expected. Um, so I think what he was actually told about by our mantis friends, um, which he had a very palpable, vivid dream a couple of years before the walk-in, too, a few years before. I could talk about that dream.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think what he was told about in dream time as well as on ships, like very close up with these mantis beings, probably with other souls who are about to become walk-ins too,
Mm-hmm.
is warning about, yeah, being prepped subconsciously and educated about
Mm-hmm.
this walk-in program that we had agreed to. And so I think what they were trying to allude to him to is to energetically and spiritually heal and prepare a little bit more before the walk-in.
Okay.
Um, so of course he didn't finish a lot of spiritual healing and therapy type work before then. I had to pick up all the loose and messy pieces of his emotional and family karma and other karma.
Okay.
But that's what hypnotherapy is really good for, and that I really helped clear
Mm-hmm.
up with hypnotherapy as well as Reiki helps a bit. Um, Other though coaches and trainers I worked with along the way have helped with
Mm-hmm.
pieces of that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so the walk-in, I could tell you how that happened.
Yeah, sure.
Um, my walkout had been working at a grocery store, one of his first um, paying corporate job after college, and wasn't his favorite, I'll be honest. Due to policies of like time and attendance, he ended up getting fired, and that was on November 10th, 2020,
Mm-hmm.
which the numbers spell out 111/22
Okay.
numerologically. And so he saw though when he looked at the date when he was let go that that must have happened kind of by design or for a reason to be
Mm-hmm.
on those special numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And so the best I've figured out is the next day or that night when he was asleep into November 11th, 2020. 11/11/22 is when the walk-in procedure happened.
Mm-hmm.
And in hypnosis, I remembered actually how that happened, the procedure. And basically, it was a very delicate psychic surgery procedure that um, our mantis and gray friends performed. And what was explained to me is, and I remember, is that during that switch exchange, basically they had to quickly cut our silver cords, you could call it here,
Mm-hmm.
the cord that was binding each of our souls to our bodies, and then instantaneously switch them around so that I came in here into this body and
Mm-hmm.
was then instantly reattached.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like an instant of death, technically, too. Um, and then rebirth or revival in a way. And then his soul, um, switched out and got attached to or into my gray body that I came from. And so then I woke up with walk-in symptoms and pains and energetic discomfort after that.
Okay. Wow. So that's pretty interesting because I know that people are familiar with the concept of walk-ins, but I'll be honest, I've met a couple of people who have had walk-in experiences. If there's anybody in the audience tonight who has experienced being a walk-in and wants to tell us about a little bit about it, I would love to hear it. But so being a walk-in, how does that help you? Does that help you with your karma? Does that help you with the karma that you're working with from the Draco. What was the reasoning behind coming in as a walk-in at this point in time on Earth in this body?
Yeah, it was so that the strength and wisdom I attained as a soul in many lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes really, but yeah, so that my soul could then finish up and heal the rest of the karma that Troy, my walkout, couldn't or didn't know how to and couldn't. And that's kind of the general scenario of walk-ins is that the natal soul grows up the body, usually into adulthood, and then at a certain point that's agreed on, then the walk-in comes in and takes on the karma basically and cleans that up, so that then the higher soul purpose can be fulfilled and embodied and um, manifested here
Okay.
as a part of the evolution of this world. One way that this walk-in experience has helped me, though, with that karmic and energetic healing, I learned this a few years after the walk-in, but it's actually a type of consciousness um, state access that my walkout had uh, attained or experienced, kind of in the direction of Deepak Chopra when he went to a Deepak Chopra event. But I learned after I was even taught this through psilocybin that it's actually a state that's talked about in the Bhagavad Gita that was described more than 5,000 years ago. And it's basically the state of being a witnesser. I was told it is, or I know it as. And this kind of detached state of not letting my emotions or the emotional drive of this body, and especially biased emotions, control me or make up my decisions, but being able to step back and be this detached, basically silent-minded viewer and listener and witnesser of everything. And so without emotional attachment, then that allows me as a consciousness to view my own emotions in a detached way, and then choose also how I want to engage with them. I want to heal my emotions. I want to engage with others, um, and also the reciprocal effects that may come with that, and also let me develop a more mindful, sometimes attached, but also mindful, intentional decision of what I want to create and how I want to bring that about.
Okay, that's really interesting. And so you know that you're a walk-in and that you had a life before, and then you're sort of coming into this new body to work out a certain kind of karma. Now, were you connected with your parents? Because I think you were mentioning at one point that you were conceived differently as opposed to your brothers and sisters, and that when you tracked down your birth mother, you would find out information about her bloodlines. Did you want to sort of go into that information?
Yeah, I do. That's very interesting and relevant. But yeah, this body was conceived via in vitro fertilization by an egg donation, and so it's the egg donor mother of this body that then my walkout was curious to meet growing up, as he knew that he was from an egg donation, and he eventually did, and it was a closed contract donation initially back in the 90s.
Okay.
So um, yeah, but it was in the more recent years and modern types of technology of DNA testing that became available to the public, that then he was able to do that and connect with. It was initially an uncle from that family, but got in touch with the egg mother, and yeah, he then did some ancestral research connecting with cousins, a cousin who clued him in on basically some witches and sorcerers in our bloodline, and that got him curious. Also, he learned about
But this is more
the
you, right? Like this is you, the two of you, I guess,
yeah
within the same
yeah
body.
the
We're
the
doing
two of
this
us, but yeah, I
information,
still find
looking about.
the
Okay,
tools he learned relevant,
okay,
and so this is a book from our Pennsylvania Dutch ancestry tradition,
okay,
The Long Hidden Friend. I have still a copy of.
okay,
It's a pretty thin book, kind of a wide but thin book. It has a lot of information. You can actually find some of these spells and charms and remedies online.
okay,
But for those interested in the Pennsylvania Dutch powwow magic tradition,
okay,
I highly recommend this. I think this is one of the few actual books with this these spells and techniques and charms in it that you can buy. I think there might be some others, but there aren't many out there unless you like go to Pennsylvania and learn from a teacher if they let you in. Um, but yeah, this powwow magic, which by the way gets its name basically gifted or colloquially gifted to the Pennsylvania Dutch because the Algonquin tribe interacted with them early on and recognized that their methods and effects of their magic was actually very similar to Algonquin traditions
okay,
in a way, even though this powwow magic or browchery, as some call it, does tie its actual power to the older texts and power of the Holy Bible and God and Jesus in that sense. Um, it is highly effective, like some folk remedy, not just folk remedies, but some of these spells and charms were proven to and known to have just cured people like on the spot of major ailments. I think some even blindness, major ailments, rheumatism, things like something that could have been cystic fibrosis or
okay.
fibromyalgia back then. They just vanished because of these like the proclamations and incantations of these spells.
So,
And there's especially one or two of these charms and invocations that I myself, after my walk-in and my walk-out, have found
okay.
very useful for
So,
banishing
okay.
demons and entities from our presence.
So, if I understand correctly, when you were doing your research about, so you realized that you were conceived through in vitro fertilization, and when you had a chance, you looked up through DNA testing a little bit more about your your actual maternal mother, as it were, and so she had connections to this powwow magic, as you mentioned. Now, you mentioned that at one point, I think you also realized that she had other type of things in her bloodline, like through and it being a contactee. Did you want to go through that as well? You want to explain
I
that?
Yeah, I did learn about that through a cousin from that family, and she didn't tell me directly that this would have happened or could have happened. But I do have memories of this from being in my gray body too, that basically prove this. My cousin, though, told me about his alien contact experiences, and um, his ETs he was in contact with, he described less of a gray type, but more like a human type, except they had more like kind of flexible, rubbery limbs, kind of like they'd spent a lot of time in space, perhaps. But yeah, they visited him a lot and followed him across the country and back. And so that is, though, a thread of a suggestion of possible family and maybe intergenerational
Sort of
alien
abductions,
contact.
yeah. So
And
she was having alien abductions then in her own bloodlines. I know that sometimes they talk about how certain bloodlines, certain families are followed generation after generation, and they're being
Mhm.
abducted generation after generation. Is this what happened with the woman who provided the fertilized egg that obviously was what brought you about?
She didn't tell me from herself, but I
Mm-hmm.
suspect that.
Okay.
That's very likely because of the known multi-generational, basically programs and followings of a bloodline that go on from ETs,
Mm-hmm.
especially Greys with their hybrid programs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I regressed myself after learning hypnosis back to a a lifetime to learn about my walk-in or to learn about my walk-in and a memory that I ended up accessing in my gray body before the
Okay.
walk-in. And I remember actually even before this body was born, as that in that gray body, being part of the tweaking of kind of the more spiritual and energetic genetics, I think, of this body
Okay.
um, before I was born, and then also agreeing to the walk-in soul contract within one of our circular ships on Epsilon Eridani,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, Epsilon Eridani is a planet or a star, a planet though, they're um, below Orion in the Epsilon Star River, if any of you know that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a planet, and my gray, I call them the gray cohort. There's like four of us grays that I know personally. Um, anyway, our little family comes from there, and um, I know that they came back in 2018 after Oumuamua was passing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oumuamua was passing? Like the
yeah, so this
okay.
is also an interesting story. My walkout had told this whole story on his other YouTube channel that I don't really use myself anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the story of when he visited Mount Adams in Washington, and then is it with the UFO investigation team in 2018, and then strange things happened, battery failures, magnetic anomalies, missing time, um, Sasquatch activity in the woods, and
Mm-hmm.
probably it seemed alien activity too, ships, and then he was regressed back to these memories, which is why he started um, doing hypnosis back then too, and receiving that. And yeah, I remembered this whole lots of experiences and stories with our Gray family and visiting their base under Mount Adams. And they're very gentle and benevolent and kind of enlightened, more
Mm-hmm.
enlightened type of Greys. Um, yeah, as well as mantis beings or
Okay.
in our group. Um,
So
yeah, so that was a whole thing for him. His
mm-hmm.
basically alien contact awakenings.
Okay. Now, I know that in the past we actually had a presentation a couple of weeks ago from Kevin Estrella, and Kevin was as a musician, he's a very very accomplished musician, and he's also someone who has had a ongoing contact with the Ponte people.
Hmm.
And one of the things that he brought up was the fact that a lot of musicians, a lot of artists have a tendency to be contacted by different alien beings. Would you say the same thing? It's the same for people, for example, who have any kind of esoteric, any kind of healing, any kind of mystical or sorcery, mystical magical powers. Would you say that the gray or different groups of alien beings are particularly focusing on these people? Because it seems that you have, both the healing side and the mystical side, but you also have the artistic side as well. And it seems to be a bit of a pattern where people are being contacted. Did you want to comment on that? Like why people like yourself are being contacted? Is it because there's a
Yes.
bigger pattern? I hear there's a bigger reason why people are being contacted in order to work on these ships. What's happening here?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, I've also learned that there's generations of artists and artistry in this bloodline, particularly from my mother's side. And yeah, what I understand is that the reason that so many both artists and mystics. Supposed to do both fields. Um, Often experience alien contact, as well as some of us who remember, as well as researchers have heard from, have put together that there is this correlation between the groups of ETs, whether it's grays or it, even humanoid groups, basically star people, though,
Mm-hmm.
um, bring us on their ships is because, especially us, those of us with ancestry as well as direct experience with types of sorcery or energy work, um, tend to have a more adept ability, an innate ability to be able to steer, interact with their ships and technology because their ships and technologies are half, I feel, mineral and synthetic, as well as organic and conscious.
Mm-hmm.
They like literally know us and feel us while we're not only in the ship, but I remember handling some of their technologies that also have similar types of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite like a whole human consciousness complex and mind, but consciousness to like feel um, the being interacting with it and um, yeah, it, like knows us. Kind of like how um, not just AI but smart technologies
Mm-hmm.
react really well
Mm-hmm.
typically, but it's kind of like that, but it's like before we even have to touch them,
Yeah.
something it's like instantaneous thought awareness of the technology is just being able to know what we need and
Mm-hmm.
what we're gonna do
Yeah.
and they like show us and give us do things for us and that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But I understand and I believe that that ability is to some degree heightened by our high artistic ability as well as some more adept and sensitive psychic and mystic and sorcerer and energy work abilities
Mm-hmm.
um, for like neurology and energy body to be able to interact with those more easily.
Yeah. But that's what I've also heard as well. And it's funny because I've heard a lot of people who have said that they've regressed themselves, they've been regressed like through hypnosis, and they're being brought into these rooms with a whole bunch of people. And a lot of these people are being trained how to fly these ships. And one of the things that I've heard is that something is coming up at, in a number of years, maybe next year, maybe the year after, but that it'll be imperative to be able to evacuate people off this planet. And so they are going around and they're training people, to be able to operate these ships so that they can help with the evacuation process. And for those of you who know me and who've been watching this channel for a while, my mother, who was also a big of a psychic, she had a dream about how these ships were landing. And they were landing near our house and they were telling people to come, come onto the ships and everything like that because all hell was breaking loose. And it's not the first time I've heard it. Not only my mother dreaming it, but I've heard other people talking about it. I've had psychic visions. I've had dreams about how there's going to be, especially if it's going to be during the pulse, that this is the one time where they're going to be evacuating people off the planet, doing the pulse, and then protecting people from all people from being killed. Obviously not everybody's going to make it, but that's another story for another day. But in terms of contacting artists, it just makes sense because I guess if you're wired a certain way, you're able to connect with these ships, which I hear, the ships are not only AI, but they're also sentient, like they're actual sentient beings. And these beings are able to connect with the occupants. You know what I mean? And they are able to have, if I can say, a relationship with the occupants. So it's a being in the shape of a ship, but it's a ship that's actually alive and an actual being of sorts. I mean, I don't know, I want to say animal or mineral, but it's actually has feelings in it and it can actually connect with people. So I think that that's kind of interesting, and I think that if you are someone who's artistic or someone who has any kind of mystical leanings, you're also going to have a little bit more of empathy and compassion. It doesn't mean that not everybody else can be compassionate, but obviously it's a good way, it's a good meter by which to measure people's intentions. But
Hmm.
you know what I mean. So if you're going to get someone who's an artist and someone who is going to want to help and heal people, that's somebody that I want on my side, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps. I do think there's a correlation between artistic, kind of right-brained levels of thinking and being able to receive telepathic thoughts. I think that helps, especially when you're on the ships, it's easier, but um, people down here on Earth also talk about receiving a complex downloads. Like I've received these, especially the Mantis beings communicate this way through downloads, like usually color and frequency, but it like teaches you and informs you and is like really jam-packed with a lot of types of information and yeah, just like a whole lesson, but it's a super efficient, very quick way of communicating, and typically artistic abilities tend to be able to receive that a little bit more easily, I think, um, in whole downloads, similar to artistic inspiration and ideas.
Yeah, and I have an interesting comment here from Kelly Wacker. She said, "Do the Greys abduct us because they are not able to breed their own kind?" Well, Kelly, you know what? I've heard a lot of people talk about this particular topic, and I've heard everything from because they become too technologically advanced, they are unable to have offspring and procreate, and so people like Bashar who come in and who are Daryl Anka who channels Bashar say that we have to be careful about the amount of technology that we get involved in, because if we become too technologically advanced, we lose a certain part of our humanity. And I've heard other stories about how there are people coming from the future because they become too technologically advanced, and it's basically the Greys are basically us from the future who can't have children, and so they're coming into the past and abducting people and eggs and sperm and all that because they cannot procreate. So I've heard many different stories, but that's pretty much the two types of veins of stories that I've heard. And like I said at the beginning of this presentation, that it kind of, I feel a bit kind of like, oh, when we hear about the AI or AI nanites, is because we have to be careful that we don't become too caught up in the AI and too much caught up in the and all this technology. Technology is fine as long as it's a tool that can be used, but when it takes over, we have to be careful because we don't want to lose our humanities. And I think it's our humanity that makes us so special in this galaxy. And I know that I don't know, Troy, if you wanted to comment as to why so many different groups. Now, I heard that the Draco, the reptilians, different groups are fighting for this planet. What makes us so special? I guess it's the humanity, right? Who we are.
Yes, yeah, I guess that's a lot to comment on, but yeah,
Yeah.
partly for this planet, on that topic, the Draco, like I said, have been here for a very long time. With the dinosaur era, reptilian era, some of them are still here in the inner Earth cavities. Some come and go still with their Draco ships, and um, for the most part, though, I think that what's interesting that I've observed over lifetimes and over the years here as a walk-in is, of course, I fought that war with the Draco around Sirius A, um, but then the Draco presence here, at least for a long time now on Earth, has not been so much of a destructive war like it used to be on other worlds. And maybe it still was in some centuries past, but um, it has shifted to a more like soft, but controlling and domineering presence.
Mm-hmm.
And many people talk about, and I know this to be true myself, these like maybe 300 people, just a few royal families, some say up to 13 royal families. Some of them may actually be hybridized with Draco DNA. Some of them are certainly basically puppets of Draco beings, and the economic, not just money, but specific systems that the Draco had them implement
Okay.
here to um, basically instill control and dominion on humans. And through the teachings of these systems, school systems, economic systems, the Draco have conditioned a lot of humans into these deeply ingrained beliefs of low self-worth, that so many of us might only be worth whatever amount of money we own or supposedly own and can get our hands on, and that those with more amounts of money in their bank account then are much more powerful and much more worthy of certain things, which is a lie in the eyes of spirit and God's source creator Allah. And yeah, that's the Draco um, teaching, though. They're trying to keep us
Mm-hmm.
controlled, I understand. So that's their game now
Mm-hmm.
on Earth, and they're still trying to maintain that.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people are waking up, and what I've felt and heard and witnessed also on Earth, not only with the rise of decentralized money and banking systems, but um, just energetically and in the news and upper royal family structures, I've just felt that the Draco and
Mm-hmm.
that ancient influence on us and our planet
Mm-hmm.
is starting to dwindle, especially
Yeah.
as some of the older royal family people are dying off year
Mm-hmm.
by year,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the frequency of Earth is raising. So many more people are waking up,
Yeah.
and the Draco know that they're losing power
Mm-hmm.
over
Mm-hmm.
a an exponentially quickly growing number of people and percent of the population.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, the I think the war with the Draco on Earth is coming to an end,
Yeah.
even though we see some of the last of their
Mm-hmm.
members and influences trying to kick and scream as
Yeah.
they fall
Mm-hmm.
pretty hard. But
But they're not going to go out without a fight, eh? Because and I think that also when you consider that these Draco and the Archons and all these sort of lesser beings that are controlling this planet, they're losing control. But it's also because, as you
mhm,
said before, we're entering a light band of the galaxy, we're entering a higher frequency photon band, and that's
yeah,
raising the frequency of the planet. And when you raise the frequency of the planet, you cannot have these darker forces there. And so, like you said, they're going down, kicking and screaming. They're using the media to try and give this perception that everything's wrong and there's this and that and the other. And what's interesting is a lot of people are just sort of turning it off, saying, no, I don't want to look at the social media and the news. Like nobody walks with the news anymore. Like that's just like
hmm
that's ancient history. And I mean
hmm
the amount of people that are watching the news has absolutely dwindled. And so a lot of people are turning within and are looking to a much more, they're just ignoring all the crazy and the noise, and are looking within. More and more people are meditating. More and more people have turned off their social media. More and more people realize this. So, I'm as much as I know a lot of crazy is going on. You have to also sort of take it with a grain of salt and say, is this just, clickbait? Is this just fear porn? What is all this sort of stuff? You know what I mean?
hmm
And
I do.
yeah, and I think this also ties in with some of the work that you're doing. You have a new company that you're working on right now called Peaceful Rain. Is this a part of the work that you're doing on the planet here? Do you want to just sort of tell us a little bit more about that and give us sort of before we close out for the evening?
It is, yeah. Thank you, Crystal. Yeah, my logo is right here
Yeah.
in the corner. I think Crystal included the links and logo and information not
Yeah, in
only
the
to
comments below.
my right now I don't have a live website, but I am on Facebook page as well as Peaceful Rain Community, um, an Etsy shop, and there's one other link. Um, yeah, Peaceful Rain though, I started this summer, especially this last Lionsgate portal. I'm sure for many of you, it was really almost unbelievably intense, and the energy of it like really shook off everything that wasn't serving the best. Um, and so this was actually a hard curve for me to try to turn, but um,
But I think
after,
it was hard for a lot of people because the Schumann resonance was very, very high. And I
mhm.
think the Schumann resonance really, really shook everybody up. Like this was a really
it,
tough summer
yeah,
for all
it
those,
did.
like the
It was
flares
like,
and the resonance. It just blows everybody apart, you know?
yeah, the Schumann resonance. I saw a graph of this was like in the white zone for almost 2 days straight. And so that, yeah, during that time this happened, I worked with a couple of old soul clients. They resonate with the like masculine and feminine Christ energies, but I helped remove a dark god from one of them, and from another one, a few jinn, as well as what I would describe as little gremlins or low-level spirits siphoning their energy. But yeah, I cleared those entities, they're gone. And since then, I've watched that couple really bounce back hard in divine union and greater happiness and joy and new inspirational projects as a married couple. Really beautiful there. So I decided to create this company, which actually have been my walkout started banishing demons in 2013 when he was first faced with his first blood circle demon. Of course, his first one was one of the hardest, or a really hard one. Um, yeah, we basically have been at this for about 12 years now um, with that experience from him. And that's just innate in this body too, is a sorcerer and companion with the archangels. Um, so it's like during this Lionsgate portal, the archangels showed me this way of doing this, and this talent I have of doing this too. So Peaceful Rain is largely for entity clearings, but also energy healings after a demon banishing or entity removal. Which there are many other entities. I've removed succubus and incubus from people. Like I said, jinn, which are not even like demons or dark spirits. They're like a completely different type of being from another dimension that visit us. Um, Other just dark spirits, tricksters, and such. Peaceful Rain is more than just entity removal, but also energy healing, restoration, and education of soul sovereignty, your soul's purpose, and embodying that as a sovereign being. And yeah, it's
Okay.
really reigning in the peace that you deserve as a divine being.
Okay.
I'm working with a friend actually with ideas for creating either a nonprofit or a private membership organization too. What I feel like doing is, although entity removal sessions one-on-one is I charge for that, but I want to have like this bigger like school and organization to of basically educating people on the art of spiritual protection as well as um, demon banishing and entity removals
Okay.
via the ways that I've learned and been able to do it. So
That's
that
incredible.
then the mission of Peaceful Reign is to create a demon free, an entity attachment free planet Earth. And then via that, we reign in peace for planet Earth to then lay the groundwork for the next golden age, which the golden age is not here yet. It's not just granted. We have to work for it. And we're currently seeing the end of the last dark ages and change period before we lay the groundwork for that. I think we'll take a few more centuries to see a literal golden age here, but Peaceful Reign is to help lay the groundwork for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, remove and banish demons from this planet and the influence of demons and Draco from this planet too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that that is absolutely a beautiful way to sort of close this because I feel that we are all on this path. We are all working together. We are all doing our part as much as we can. And it's nice that we have people like you, Troy, who are leading the way because you've had your experiences and you're bringing us the fruits of your experiences and you're helping us to understand through your own experience and past lives the stuff that we need to work on and how we can become a better planet. I think that's really very, very important. And so it's really, really encouraging. I'm thinking that it won't take, hopefully, it won't take hundreds of years. I think that we are entering starting of the golden age. I mean, a little bit here and there. I think the astrology is pointing towards big changes coming up the next couple of years. And definitely by 2030, we're going to be seeing some very, very big changes on this planet. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking that we are definitely on our way and that in this lifetime we can, with leaders like yourself, spiritual leaders like yourself, helping us to guide us along this way. So I want to just say thank you, Troy, for all that you've done, and thank you for all the work that you're doing and the help, and for leading a lot of other starseeds and light workers to this new path. So thank you again. And I just want to say thank you to our members this evening for being here with us tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Please subscribe, but you can receive all our information and our mail outs. So please, or you can also join us on meetup.com under the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective. You can check us out there. You can also see on our meetup page, you can see some of the events that we have coming up. So do check that out. But again, please like and subscribe. It really helps us. And I wanted to say thank you to everybody for being here tonight. And I wanted to say thank you, Troy, for being with us. I truly appreciate it. Your wisdom and guidance is most welcome. And I thank you for sharing your gifts with us. So, and also everybody, don't forget to check out his site. Look at the links below for Peaceful Rain and also some of the work that he's doing with New Being Hypnosis if you want to get a session. So thank you again, everybody. We look forward to seeing you next week. It's, oh my God, it's September already. Where'd the summer go? It was just May. Now it's August. What the hell? So thanks again, everybody, for coming out tonight. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you. I wish you peace.
Yeah, thank you so much, Troy, and wishing you a peaceful rain, or a purple rain for that matter. So, peaceful rain,
I
perfect.
love it.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's what we're in for.
Exactly, exactly. Thanks again, everyone, and thank you, Troy. Take care.